But I think you bring up some important points, and I just want to highlight those. And like the first one is that we set out with a goal,
Mm-hmm.
and we were watching those goals, and we were seeing how we were tracking to those goals. And then we decided to shift and make an adjustment to those goals midstream, which that's okay to do. And we decided that there was something that was more important than the other thing that we wanted to do that we may have been budgeting for.
Welcome. This is For Better and Worth.
The podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all, let's get into it. Hey, babe, here we are back at it.
Yes. And I'm excited because this is a good one.
Yeah, you know, we've been committed to making sure that we can get good content out to you guys every week. And it's about that mid-year check-in time. So we thought it would be a perfect opportunity to talk about that mid-year goal check-in.
Yeah, absolutely. When I did this in coaching, because there was a time when I specifically had mid-year check-ins with clients, and it was interesting because it would be a lot of people who forgot about their goals. And so I'm curious on if people have forgot about their goals, because it's easy to set them. We're all excited come January or December 31st. We're like, yes, I'm going to get these goals. I'm going to crush them this year. And then February comes and we are not doing the goal.
I always think about like how after the new year, I see attendance at the gym increase for about the month of January, maybe a little into February. But then it starts to wean off all those new people I saw that were coming. They start to realize the commitment level it takes to stay consistent going to the gym. And I think the same thing can be said about budgeting. Like you start out saying, hey, I got this plan. I've got these goals. I'm going to stick to it. Then after a couple months of saying no or delaying gratification, even though you might start to see some progress, but progress sometimes is slow and you got to build momentum. People start saying, you know what, I've been doing this. And by the time March rolls around, they're like, you know what, I deserve it.
Right.
I need to treat myself, and then you get off track. So I think it's a good time that whether you are crushing your goal for the year or you have abandoned it.
Yes.
Now's probably a good time to reflect and see where you're at and how you're doing. So
I think that's a good point. I think staying on budget, getting out of debt, saving for your future is definitely a lot like working out, exercise, and trying to lose weight. It
is not easy.
It requires consistency and determination and changing something that possibly isn't working. So in trying to lose weight is probably the food, right? Like that's something that you got to change, right?
Say it's 90% what you eat.
Lord have mercy.
10% of what you do at the gym.
And so... And
90% is the hard part.
Right. And so there's also similar discipline required to save money or pay off debt or, whatever it is that you're trying to do with your finances. It requires discipline and something's got to change. And I think that can be hard. And I don't think that people do this intentionally. They don't. They're not going into the year thinking, oh, by February, I'm abandoning my goals. They're not doing that. It happens slowly over time. And then you wake up one day and you realize that you haven't paid attention to the goal or something fell off one time and then two times and then three times.
And I don't want people to think that everybody is just abandoning their goal. I think it's actually a perfect time to go and pull those goals out from January and look at how you're tracking towards those goals, because I know we set goals in January for where we want it to be. And I think financially, we're on track to check off, one of our big goals that we had. Yeah. And I think for the first half, we actually made an adjustment to our goal as well.
We did, yeah. Because as you know, I mean, if you've been listening for a while, you know that this year we had to shift our priorities. We had a goal, and to be specific, we had a goal at the end of last year, and in January, we were thinking that we were going to remodel our bathrooms.
Because we've decided that we are not moving
Yes.
out of our current home.
Right.
And taking on a new mortgage that would increase our liability. We said, nope, we're going to just pay the house off, which is almost paid off. And then we're going to remodel. So
right. And
we went into the project with that mentality.
Right. So last year we did the kitchen, but it was too much cash outlay to do the bathrooms as well. So we delayed that for this year. And now we've decided it might not be as important as this trip that we took to South Africa, and we have no regrets, right? Hey, so we did a shift. So we haven't abandoned the goal of the bathrooms. As a matter of fact, I'm like eager now for, the next time in top of next year to actually get that project done too.
But I think you bring up some important points, and I just want to highlight those. And like the first one is that we set out with a goal, and we were watching those goals, and we were seeing how we were tracking to those goals. And then we decided to shift and make an adjustment to those goals midstream, which that's okay to do. And we decided that there was something that was more important than the other thing that we wanted to do that we may have been budgeting for. And I think that's what people have to remember, is that you can shift and make changes to your goals, but you may not be able to do everything. But if you want to do something different, you got to sacrifice maybe one thing for another in order to stay on track and accomplish your overall goals.
Right.
And though we didn't do our remodel, we felt like the time and the opportunity that presented itself to take this trip and this vacation was more important.
And for us, we knew exactly where the money was coming from. And it was similar in cost. I mean,
yes.
Spot on.
Yes.
I mean, the trip
it was what we had budgeted for. Either way, it was within budget.
That's right. And so, though I think in the end the trip was a little bit more expensive, but not enough where it mattered. Like when we're looking at it, it's not a big deal.
It was within that margin of error.
Absolutely. And so, but it was completely worth it. No regrets at all. And we are still going to get that other goal accomplished. So our other goal was to get our savings up to a certain level, and we're literally $1,000 away. Like, we're super close.
Yeah, I count it as done.
But it'll be done in like a couple weeks.
Yeah. But I think the important thing is that what people have to remember is that it's not one-sided. It wasn't my goal or your goal or what you wanted to do or what I wanted to do. It was what we had decided to do together. And then when we shifted, we sat down and we talked about it. And we really said, okay, let's think this through. Could we do this later? Would there be another opportunity as a family to take a trip like this? And, you have all the best of intentions, but you never know what life can throw at you. And so we collectively made a decision to shift, to adjust, and do something different. And I think that's important because relationships, I think sometimes there's a driver and there's a passenger, and somebody can feel like they're being drug along and it's not what they wanted to do or wasn't their first choice. And so I really think it's so important to have conversation and make sure that it is a shared goal, it is a shared pivot or shared shifting from what you originally set out to do to what you're deciding you're going to do.
Yes. And I think a really good question to ask each other is, if we didn't accomplish this goal, how would you feel? It's because I think that we're really striving for the feeling. It's the satisfaction, or it's just knowing that you conquered it, or this is something you've always wanted to do. There's this feeling of, either euphoria or happiness or peace or joy or contentment with your family. Like there's how do you want to feel? And if you don't feel that way when you consider, do I want to do this? Because honestly, how we feel about the trip, or how we were going to feel going on this trip, was so much excitement, and it was honestly a bucket list for us. And It was not a bucket list item if you think about it in the grand scheme of life to actually get our, bathrooms
I
remodeled. I
think we're
mean,
going to remember the trip
yes.
more than we remember the bathroom in this
Yeah.
particular
That
house.
part. That part.
But I think one thing that I want to highlight is that and people should be on track too.
Sure.
Like, and I hope that as people have set goals in January, that you're tracking towards accomplishing those goals. And I think it's a perfect time to stop and say, okay, where are we?
Mm-hmm.
Are we hitting it? Are we close? Are we on track to hit it by the end of the year? Because you may have to make an adjustment.
That's right.
If you're not going to hit it, now's the perfect time to reassess, reevaluate, and put things in place that can help you make the goal. Maybe you went a little bit off track, and now if you're saving for something, you got to save a little bit more.
Right.
Or if you're trying to get out of a debt and you're behind pace, maybe you got to turn something off to increase the amount that you're putting towards the debt. And so I think it's a perfect time to either say, yep, we're on track, we're cool, keep doing what we're doing, or we're a little off track and we have to adjust, and now we have to reevaluate and do some things to make sure that by the end of the year, we can hit that goal.
Yeah, we still have 6 months. And I think a lot of times sometimes we can get discouraged too if we're not on track. And I think managing that is important too. If things have slowed down or something took you off course, or if there was some type of emergency, we can feel bad about that. And I think it's important to know that there's still time. And so maybe the amount changes or the target changes or the amount that you're putting towards it changes, but as long as you're as a couple you're a team effort about it, I think that's what's important, because more often than not at this point people have decided to abandon them. It's only like 46% of the people who are actually still trying to go after whatever goal they set in January by the time June comes. And if that's the case, what side do you want to be on? The ones who are figuring out how to still crush it, or the ones who just said, forget it, I don't want to do it no more?
Look, I don't know. I kind of want to just pause for a second, because I think we beat ourselves up so much.
We do, yeah.
Trying to strive for perfection. And look, I mess up every day.
And I think it's fair to say
I say things wrong. I do things wrong. And I know when Ericka is like, Christopher Young.
When his whole name comes out, he knows he done said something. Foot and mouth syndrome has occurred.
Ruh-roh. I said something I shouldn't have.
That goes for anybody in our family. I say for the girls, I say their first and middle name. For Chris, I say his first and last name. If you get one more name in there, I am serious business.
Right. I was like, I done said something wrong, right? I done did something I shouldn't have done, maybe.
But listen, like
maybe.
Possibly, but he not gonna own it. He definitely not gonna own it. But
I just say and do what people think they should say and do.
Yep. And then that doesn't mean it's genuine. But in the last 25 years, there have been goals that we abandoned, I'm sure. I can't honestly, I think getting out of debt for us, it took about 5 years. And we never abandoned the goal, obviously, because we did, in fact, get out of all of our consumer debt. But it got pushed off some.
Yeah, it could, like we've talked about this before. We could have done it sooner.
Sure.
And it could have taken a shorter amount of time. And look, if you're out there and you're getting out of debt, look, it doesn't have to take you 5 years. You could do that in less time. It takes some commitment, but I think there were different points where, honestly, I think we just got tired.
Yeah.
It was like, man, I'm tired of saying no, or I'm tired of, doing this or sacrificing. And we might have, squoze a little something in there to, make us feel good.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, we didn't stay in that place.
Sure.
And that's where I think people go wrong, or they can go wrong. Is they're like, man, I've been working at this. I've been diligent. It's slow. I'm not seeing progress. And you abandon it and you never go back to it. And then you wind up getting yourself in a deeper hole.
Yeah. And a lot of people get in the trap of, I deserve it. They get in the trap of, but I deserve this. I make good money. I should be able to do A, B, and C. And here's what I think when we're getting down into the nitty gritty of what progress have you made? I think there are a couple of practical ways you can look at this. If you're trying to save money for an emergency, emergency fund of, say, 3 to 6 months of expenses, I would calculate how many months you actually have. So, like, see what that represents for your household. I think that's a really good exercise.
Yeah.
Or if you're getting out of debt, let's see how many debts you've paid off, or how much more quickly can you pay off this one credit card. What can you accomplish by the end of the year that you would be happy with? I think we're so focused on these bigger picture goals that we don't consider the mini goals or the sub goals that come along with it, so that we can celebrate that.
That's why you can't despise small beginnings, because
Right.
everything started somewhere. And if you started with paying off one small credit card and it's gone, boom, you're less one credit card. And then you go to the next thing. And so, like, I think you bring up a very valuable point that progress is progress. So don't diminish the progress you've made. Just build on it, because that's how you create, I feel like that's how you create momentum.
So I got a question to ask you. And I don't know the answer for myself, but I'm just curious. And if you have an answer, we have our one goal to get our savings, our emergency fund up to a certain level that essentially is done, this month. But what do you want to accomplish now in the next 6 months that is separate from that?
Well, I'm a saveaholic. So I could increase the savings goal for the rest of the year, because all I do is I start to put different names on it. Because we've talked about, like, buying another car, and I was talking about buying myself a car, but then we said, well, you have a company car, and why would you buy?
That's a whole quandary. That's a whole episode in and of itself, husband. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Absolutely.
We could talk about that for an entire episode.
Yes. So I won't go deep into that, but I think, like, I've already started thinking about next year. And I haven't forgotten about what we want to do this year, but I'm trying to set up what I do for the rest of this year to position us for next year. And so I don't know if everybody probably doesn't think that way, but because we met the goal, I was like, okay, if we're going to be here, maybe we can create a little more cushion in savings, because I just like having a little cushion, because you never know what life is going to throw at you. But then I also started thinking about, how can I extend my goal into next year? Because we talk about the remodel. I've already got a time frame of when I want that to happen. And so I'm thinking about, okay, in order to make that happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, and this needs to happen.
So maybe we need to save more this year so we are better prepared for the timing next year for that goal. Okay.
Right, because I've got, like, a couple things in mind for next year that this year will set us up to accomplish those things next year.
So as you were talking, I thought about something that I think this is something I want to do.
Oh man.
No.
Here we go.
No, this is something you want.
Okay. All right, let me change.
He wants a new couch, and I think.
I forgot about that.
See, I think that by the end of the year, our living room couch needs to be changed.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And because I honestly think it feels kind of like a consolation prize, not being able to do our bathrooms, but being able to have a nicer couch.
Yeah, boy, and with inflation, boy, you even go look at a couch. I'm like,
but it's not anywhere close to the amount of remodeling those.
Oh, absolutely not.
And
absolutely not.
I believe that we could do that, plus have a little cushion in our savings.
Yeah, I'll probably be on board with that.
Yeah. So I think that's the only thing that I would want, because quite frankly, I'm not trying to go nowhere. I feel like I have my trip fix all done for this year. I am overdone.
You say you are tripped out.
I am tripped out. Like, we could actually take a trip for free, like, in the next several months. And it's crazy to say that I don't really want to do it. Like, I want to wait until next year, because
I was like, I kind of like being at home.
I want to sleep in my bed. I don't listen. I got some knee issues going on right now.
Look, it's a blessing.
Every single time I get on a plane, my knee swells up, and it takes days for that joker to go. Like, I got problems. I need to not be on a plane. Period.
Now that you bring that up, I think this year I may have to budget for more medical care.
Well, no, it's not a budget. It's like, we just got to pay that junk because it's.
I gotta have a budget line item.
It's the HSA, right? Like, I'm just using it. It is what it is.
You hitting the HSA kind of hard though.
My health care is important. Okay, I'm just saying, a sister got to walk right now. So if I need a little extra attention, then that's what we gonna do.
You know what, baby? It's okay. Go ahead on.
Thanks.
And spend a little bit extra.
I know he not giving me permission to take care of my health.
I'm just saying that, because health is wealth.
It is.
And I care about your health. So
it's expensive to be sick. It is expensive.
Look.
Okay.
If you have been listening to us and following us, you know that life isn't perfect. We are not perfect. We are just trying to share our experiences so that you don't have to go through the same things that we went through.
Yeah.
And you can get there faster. Mm-hmm. But I really empathize with people who have struggles right now because of income or debt or just, inflation is for real right now.
It's a real deal.
Because everything costs so much. Mm-hmm. I was talking to some coworkers, and we were just talking about somebody they were talking about buying a car, and the average car cost today is close to $50,000.
No.
Yeah, the average new car is almost $50,000. Mm. And you're talking about you might end up with a Honda Accord, no, $40,000.
Come on, I was gonna say Honda not quite 50.
It might be $35,000-$40,000, but we're talking about a Honda Accord. That's a good car, but
it's not fancy.
Yeah, but you go look at a pickup truck, or I see people driving all these SUVs and Escalades. Escalade is $100,000. I was like,
what we not gonna do?
Yeah, what we're not going to do is spend $100,000.
I remember test driving an Escalade, and I was like, this is a boat.
Yeah.
I would never have been able to drive that thing. I'm so glad that we were in agreement on that because, and even the Yukon, when we got the Yukon.
It was pretty big.
It was a large car. It was comfortable, though. I felt good in it. But anything, and I couldn't have done an XL of anything.
But, 2024 Yukon Denali is it's like $95,000.
That's nuts.
That's insane. Mm-mm. And when I see people driving these cars around, I'd be like.
And that brings up a good point. We did a small group with someone, and he was talking about how he wanted to buy a nice car. His wife needed a new car, and he wanted to buy a nice car. And the standard of nice is what you said. It's about $50,000. And that doesn't, for a nice car, that's if we're talking a luxury or semi-luxury, that's really a used car.
That's a used luxury car.
And so maybe when we're talking about reevaluating our goals and what we can accomplish in a certain amount of time, I think it's good to think outside the box. And when you are the one who mentioned earlier on this year when we were talking about not doing our bathrooms, you were like, well, maybe we could do the couch because that's important to you. Yeah. And so we had to think outside the box on what we would spend money on to maybe enhance the house this year. And I was like, you know what, that's probably a good idea. And so, every so often we'll go and we'll look for something. But I think we can get really firmly grounded in what we think we want, and especially with cars.
It's wants and needs.
Yeah. It's like we need a car, but we want this one that's $50,000.
Yeah. And look, and I know that a lot of people, a $50,000 car is not in the budget. It is not where you should be. Mm-hmm. And don't mistake what we're saying. I think there's a time and a place for that. Mm-hmm. And that may be after you got out of debt, after you got your emergency fund set up, after you have fully funded your retirement. It has a place. Mm-hmm. And not saying that you shouldn't, buy a car or do different things, but you got to act accordingly. And I think people get that order out of place. Yeah. And they like, well, I got to be driving nice and this. And end of the day, it's a car to get you from
A to B,
where you need to go to where you need to be. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you got to scale back to get on the goal and make the progress and then evaluate later when your situation changes. So I hope people remain cognizant of that, because don't get life twisted and start focusing on what other people are doing and what other people are driving and what other people are living, where other people are living, because that's not your household. Focus on where you and your household is at, because that's where your progress is going to take place.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about, how do we finish strong? What does it look like to maybe not have a 12-month goal anymore? You have a 6-month goal or a 5-month goal. And what does it look like to finish strong? And I think one of the things that would be good to do, and I would imagine that a lot of folks don't do this mid-year, but literally actually writing it down, creating your action plan. So that could,
that sounded a little sinister almost. You were like,
what?
You were like, I was just listening.
What I
You
do?
Like, write it down.
Oh yeah, no. Because a lot of people don't do it.
You didn't mean that in a sinister way, though.
Did you? Sorry, I didn't.
I'm sorry, it was just funny.
But I guess I gave somebody an assignment, and I thought that was kind of like,
you were like, ha. Yeah, see, I was reading.
Write it down, people.
The subplot that was going on for you.
But I think writing it down, because we don't slow down enough. And I think, especially in the summertime when people are traveling, kids are out of school, life is wild, folks don't want to slow down enough to say, okay, what are the top 3 goals that I have for the rest of the year? And be specific. I would say the goal, the amount, the milestones. Maybe each month, maybe you have to change something in your settings on how you pay the bill, so it's automatic or savings automatic. Whatever it is you need to do, sit down and create your little action plan. And for me, I feel like I do this quite a bit with business. And because our top 2 goals were bigger picture goals with bigger dollar amounts, it was easy to remember. I didn't feel like I had to have that written, but I think it's really important to think about writing those things down, because it's really good to go back and see what you wrote and why this is important to you, and maybe the milestones along the way that would be helpful, so that you can just celebrate having achieved even in 6 months.
I think another way you can actually get back on track, or you can finish strong, is to make it, bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
So if we're in June, if you got 6 months left, then just say, okay, what's the monthly goal?
Yeah.
And then, work at accomplishing that goal each month, because you add those next 6 months up, you've reached the goal. So say, okay, for July, this is where we need to be. So let's focus on July.
Yeah.
Because you can be looking so far out and you can see the big finish line, but you're not doing the actual preparation to run the race to get to that finish line.
Right.
So I say just focus on it month by month. And then it's easier to readjust or reassess or reevaluate every month versus just thinking about it, between now and the end of the year, and then you wait 3 months and you're like, oh man, we're off track. Whereas if you look, July, boom, we hit that goal. August, boom, we hit that goal. September, boom, we hit that goal, and so on and so forth.
And it sounds like you're talking about a budget. We're
hey,
getting back to a budget. You know what I'm saying?
Look, the fundamental, the foundation of all of this is you have to budget.
Yeah.
You have to have a monthly budget that you look at.
I worked with someone just recently, and I asked them, because they have a solid overall plan. And when they were in disagreement, this couple was in disagreement about some specific numbers, I said, have you, on these particular categories, put a budget together? I think it's super easy when you're using credit cards to assume that the total amount, as long as it doesn't go above this amount, that it's okay. But if it's hindering you from a goal, you need to reevaluate. And so when I asked them, did they have an actual limit set for each of the categories specifically, not just the credit card, they said no. So that told me that they need to reevaluate their budget. And so here is the deal. I just don't think you can get away from it. I just don't.
I don't think you can get away from it, but I also think part of the accountability is checking in with each other monthly.
Yeah.
Like you can make it a mini goal and kind of try and make it automatic, but if you never check in with each other, because somebody could, be, pushing towards getting the goal because they're staying diligent, they're not deviating, and somebody else can be deviating, kind of undermining the plan behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And if you never have that monthly check-in, then you won't be able to keep each other honest and accountable, because we still do that. Every month, the beginning of the month, we sit and we talk about it and we look at our budget, because we still have a budget.
That's right.
And we say, okay, what's extra coming up this month? Do we need to add something to the budget, or is there something we can trim? And we look at that every month. But I think that helps keep us accountable,
honest.
Because there's things that you'll say, hey, we got this thing coming up, or this thing that we want to do. And instead of going in the savings, we'll try and factor it into the budget. But I think that helps us stay on track to hit the goal
and I think,
we have.
Practically speaking, nowadays you can set up alerts, and you can have your bank or your tracking software tell you you're over budget, right?
Yeah.
Or you're getting close to the budget. It forces you to go look at it and say, what's really going on here? And so use the tools available to you.
I know we started using a new tool, and I get these emails, and it's always like, oh, you got this that you need to review.
Yeah.
Or I was like, it really, like, I think you were using the tool more than me.
Yeah.
But I was getting all these emails. I was like, oh, let me go look at the account real quick.
Right.
Like, it just prompted me.
Right.
It was an email, and as I'm cleaning out my personal email, I would see it, and I would say, oh, let me go look. And I would go look at the account, and then I would do...
It creates action.
I would do my own little audit and be like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, yeah, she did this. Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
And then it helps. It's a check and balance. So.
Yeah, I love it. And I think those are things you can do to help yourself stay on track for the rest of the year. That to me is a way that you finish strong.
So let's talk about how we make it worth it. So for you, how can someone make it worth it with 6 months left in the year?
Honestly, just, understand that you don't have to wait till January to set goals. You can set a goal any old time. You literally any time of the year. And I think we need to, shift and think outside the box that it always has to be January. No, it can be June, it could be July, it could be September, whenever it is that you want to accomplish something. I think we allow the calendar to do it.
Yeah.
But I think that it's just good practice to know that goals can be set anytime. And I've got a couple of goals I'm excited to see, finish and get accomplished in the next 6 months. So let's go.
That's so good. You're so smart.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good advice. That's good sound advice right there.
So how do you make it worth it, babe?
I say it's not too late.
Yeah.
No matter where you're at, if you're on point, great. Keep doing what you're doing. If you're not, it's not too late to accomplish the goal that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
And then I say, just like I already said before, is break it down into bite-sized pieces, be it a budget, and have that accountability with one another. So check in monthly, because I say it's not too late, and you check in monthly, you can get there. You may have to reassess or reevaluate, or maybe you adjust what your goal is. If you're trending to be over, you can adjust it and maybe put in a little, play. Or if you're not, you can adjust it and take some of the play out so that you can make the goal.
So, that brings up a good point. As we're ending this episode, I think the thing that we've got to do as a team, and this is just transparency, for anyone listening in or watching, is I think we need to figure out how much we're going to spend on this couch and how much we're going to be saving, and when do we want to purchase it? Because
that's a good
we haven't
idea.
broken it down like that.
Yeah.
It was just, you threw it out there and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And we never solidified it. So that's really a good accountability for us to do what we're telling everybody else to do, is just to kind of make it real and concrete and figure out what we need to do to save towards that.
I get excited now because I'm going to get a new nap spot.
Oh, gosh. See, you know what? See? That's all. Yes, because as soon as we get this new couch, that's the first thing he gonna do is he want to see if he can go to sleep, how quickly he can fall asleep.
Look, when I come home to my castle, I want to relax.
Yeah, you don't.
That means I take a nap on the couch. That's what it means.
He don't want the dog to nap near the couch though. That's the problem.
Well, look, it's
time to go. Oh, wait.
All right, guys.
Time to go.
All right, guys. Until next time.
We're out.
Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on forbetterandworth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.